Welcome to another edition of Horse Race Bets with me, Ken Rudulph. It is episode number 13 here on Wednesday, February the 5th, 2025. What we do here every day, take a look at the news, the notes, the rumors, the gossip, the latest developments in the crazy world of horse racing. And then I filter it through my 25 years of experience traveling the world and going across the country, covering the sport, promoting it, marketing, trying to understand the culture and explain it to all the people who didn't know about it beforehand. I take all that knowledge and try to explain things and make it easy to understand what's happening, what could happen, and where we're going next. Little things like that. And man, we got ourselves a doozy to jump in here today. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and we've seen the developments for at least a decade or so. And that is the real estate where the tracks are currently running racing is more valuable to developers than it is to the investors of horse racing. So here's the situation. The folks at First Racing and Gaming, we've talked about them before. They pulled out of the state of Maryland, gave Laurel Park and the Maryland Jockey Club, so to speak, back to the horsemen. Now they're trying to determine if they want to sell the property in Florida where Gulfstream Park is and the property in California where Santa Anita Racetrack is. This would be a huge, huge blow to racing. But we've talked about this, and we now know the land is more valuable for future development than it is for running races. So now horse racing's in a really, really tough spot because they have to kind of fight this, right? Like in Florida, they had a situation there where they were trying to get the horsemen to support some new legislation that would support decoupling. So right now in Florida, at Gulfstream Park, they've got the slots, but they cannot have those slots without racing. And that's what they were trying to do. And they were trying to pressure the horsemen in Florida to say, hey, you support this or we're not going to support you. And at first, the Florida horsemen were like, what? You know, you have to admit they were kind of shocked. And so they said, okay, we'll do it. And they thought about it like, nah, bleep you. We're not doing that. So they said no. So now it's all up in the air. And so things are really interesting because here's what the folks at First Racing and Gaming have done. They have decided we're going to bring in the big guns. So they've brought in an individual who's very familiar to the people in horse racing, especially in the state of California. He's an investor and a former executive and a former chairman of the California Horse Racing Board. His name is Keith Brackpool. He's a serious businessman. Really, really nice. Like really nice, really charming, but he's a serious businessman. And he's already out there, as they say, according to articles that I read, not only in the Daily Racing Form, but also a long article in the Los Angeles Times, talking about how First Racing and Gaming has asked Keith Brackpool to quote-unquote kick the tires on a possible sell of those entities. They've already mentioned that one potential investor, kind of a looky-loo, said that $2 billion is too much to pay for that. So now they're in a situation where they're going to have to figure out, is it worth it for us to maybe sell this for a little bit less than we expect, or is it worth it for us to stay and work it out with the horsemen? That part I don't think is really viable, working it out with the horsemen. California racing has taken a huge hit. They shut down Golden Gate Fields. They thought that would help kind of revitalize racing in the state of California. It did not. They lost money. So now they're thinking, okay, let's kind of make Southern California stronger. Well, how are you going to do that if you don't have Santa Anita? Then they might have to add dates at Los Alamitos and add more dates at Del Mar. What does that do? Waters down your product. I used to love this thing. I actually did an experiment. Never told anybody I did this at Del Mar, just to kind of underscore how cool it is and how exclusive it is. This is crazy. We would work at Del Mar, come do our 6.5 weeks. We had a set at TVG, FanDuel, right off the paddock. One year, I remember I had an older pair of sunglasses. And I chose to put them underneath by our set in the paddock. And I remember I left them there. Don't you know that when I came back the next season, those sunglasses were still under there because nobody came through. The cleanup crew couldn't see it because it was way underneath the set, but they would push our set to the side. And my point was, everything that you left at Del Mar stayed pristine because it was a short, sweet meeting. So now if you start adding more dates, it takes away just how special it is, the uniqueness of that particular track. So there are a lot of things they have to deal with here in California. And then they have to deal with things in Florida as well. But I think about the man they have on the job here, Keith Brackpool, and like doing our job, we talk to these people, meet these people. He's super nice, super charming. And I went to one of the craziest parties I've ever been to in my life, courtesy of Keith Brackpool. Nothing happening. It wasn't the Diddy party. Nothing like that. But it was cool because I'd never been to a party. It was out somewhere. We were in Southern California. We had to go out to the sticks. When we got there, there are two massive houses next to each other. That was the party in both houses. And I'd never seen anything like that. And it was so fun and so cool. And so I remember being in one of the houses. We were over there, and it was mostly horse racing people over there. We were all talking about Breeders' Cup. And I remember talking to Keith on that side. He's just such a nice person. Then in the other house, I remember that being different because it was more political. And in that house, I met two people, and I was like, those people are interesting. At that time, I met the mayor of Los Angeles, Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. Really nice, charming man. Really, really fun. Really just, he made me laugh. He was a nice guy. I only talked to him for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, but he was really nice. But he's supposed to be, right? He's a politician. And also in that house, Kamala Harris. Met her for a brief second. She was nice, but you could tell. It's really weird you can tell a politician, right? You could tell that she was a politician. I didn't talk to her. I just remember meeting her, and then I kind of got out of the way. But I remember it being such an interesting night. And I remember also running into Mayor Villaraigosa months later when I was traveling in New York. And he was at the airport in New York. And he was behind me in line trying to go through security. And he was like, hey, I'm sorry, can I get past you? And I looked at him, and I was like, of course, Mayor. And he looked at me, because we're in New York, and he's not expecting anyone to know that the mayor of Los Angeles is coming through the airport. And he looks at me, he's like, I know you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm Ken Rudulph with Horse Racing TVG. We met at a Keith Brackpool party. He's like, yes, you're very nice, blah, blah, blah. And then he's a politician. He had to go. So he moved on through, and I was like, yeah, of course you can go in front of me. But I remember that moment being like, these people are connected. And I remember Keith Brackpool coming to me when I was leaving TVG in 2011. And he came to the set. And he's like, Ken, you did a great job. We really respect everything you did and appreciate you. And he gave me his card. He's like, I know everybody in Sacramento. If you need any help up there, you give me a call and I'll take care of you. Always appreciated that. Never took him up on it. I'm not that kind of guy. But I always appreciated it. But what I know about that man is he's very, very serious about business. So we'll see how this works out and what they're going to be doing, because we've seen this whole process with the tracks, right? We saw them sell Bay Meadows in the early 2000s. We saw them break my absolute heart by selling Hollywood Park. Then they built SoFi Stadium. We've seen that they absolutely broke the heart of horse racing when Churchill Downs sold Arlington Park, and now the Chicago Bears may or may not be developing on that land. So a lot of things are happening, but we know that the possibility of them selling is real. So what do they do now? You got to get your CECs together, baby. You got contraction, consolidation, and then come together. Contraction, you may have to subtract some things. Smaller budget, smaller economics and economy concerning what you're doing with racing, especially in the state of California. Can you consolidate? Can you come together, right? The thing about this is that horse racing has always been about, hey, what am I going to get? Every track in every state is, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? And I remember when we started TVG, and it was a whole marketing promotional thing that we would always say, but it made sense to me. Our bosses are like, look, we are not here to get a piece of this pie. And we're not here to help anybody else get a bigger piece of the pie. We're only here for one thing. We're here to make the entire pie bigger. Do you understand? The entire pie bigger. That's what we're trying to do at TVG and FanDuel. Make the game bigger so that there's more money to go around, but they all wouldn't play together. It's understandable because you have to find a way to sustain yourself because you're kind of on your own there as that track and in the state. And so then you end up being in a situation where these tracks are now reliant upon the government to help them out. They have to find a way to be sustainable on their own. And that's where the contraction, consolidation, and coming together will help them do that. Will we have less racing? Absolutely. Is that a bad thing? don't know. It's a fantastic idea. But we'll see how they're able to make that work out. And I think it's probably where they're going to have to go next in terms of, how they're going to survive, right? All right, so that's the latest news, notes, rumors, gossip, whatever. Keith Brackpool is a businessman. So we'll see what they're able to do as far as finding a potential buyer for that property, or if they come back to the bargaining table with the horsemen and say, hey, let's work this out. I hope they do, because we got a really exciting couple of months coming your way, right? Less than 90 days until the Kentucky Derby, number 151. And so we got a prep race coming up this week. We'll talk about that after we take a look at my Kentucky Derby top 5. Come on. You know we're going to do that. So, Citizen Bull, Barnes, Burnham Square, Built, Hill Road. 5 horses that I absolutely love. And Citizen Bull, everybody loves this horse, and he's going to be tough. I just hope that he stays healthy and he's at the top of his game on that first Saturday in May, because he's a tough horse. I hope Barnes continues to develop, and I hope those two throw down. Let's hope maybe Getaway Car makes it too, right? Let's hope Speed King jumps in the mix too. And there's got to be some other speed horses. I love it if they scramble on the front end. And if they do, it sets it up beautifully for my pressers and closers. Burnham Square is a horse I absolutely love. What he did in the Holy Bull was fantastic and exactly what I wanted. His trainer, Ian Wilkes, is like, we got to do better than that. But I'm like, hey, it's not my job to train him. I just bet him. You figure that stuff out. Built and Hill Road are deep closers, and we'll see where they're going to be next as far as where their next prep race is, right? So we can see them and watch their progress. And speaking of progress, we'll have another chance to check on the progress of these 3-year-olds coming up on Saturday. As I mentioned, only one Kentucky Derby prep race this week. It is the Grade 3 Sam F. Davis at Tampa Bay Downs. And it's one of the last 5, I do believe, prep races with Kentucky Derby points where it's a 20-10, 6-4-2 split, as you see there on the bottom of the screen. 20 points to the winner. Only 5 of these left, and then after that, everything kicks up to 50 and then 100 points for the winner. So a chance to watch an undefeated 2-year-old who is now a 3-year-old. His name is Poster. We'll talk more about that as they draw for post position, and we get a look at what's happening with those contenders. But we do have some exciting news to share with you, because you got to play something, right? We took Monday and Tuesday off. Wednesday in the mix. We thought about going with Tampa today, but no. I'm going to save Tampa action for Saturday. Saturday's going to be a great card, and Tampa's so crazy, you don't want to waste days there. You want to try to maximize that one day. So we'll get to Tampa. We'll get to them on Saturday. But Wednesday, February the 5th, Turfway Park in Florence, Kentucky. You are the quarry. We're going to play a late pick 5, and we're going to go big because we've decided that you have 2 options at Turfway Park. Have a strong opinion or have no opinion. If you have a strong opinion, you need to maximize that, because if you are right, you are going to be golden. Now, I have no problem with people playing $100, even $200 pick 5s at Turfway Park, because it's so lucrative that if you hit that, you are super golden. Instead, I looked at the situation and said, you know what? I could totally add horses, but I'm not gonna. I really like Mo Attitude in the first leg, race number 6, to the inside. The horse will be coming from just off the pace. Santo Sandro will be in the irons. I think he's going to be in a great spot, and I think the horse is live. Posh Play Day situation to the inside, where there's a horse, Anita or Anita, whatever the horse's name is, and Julien Laparoux is in to ride. And some people have a different opinion of this. I absolutely do not like to play a big jockey, and Julien Laparoux is a big jockey, big-time rider. I do not like to play a big-time rider coming in for just one mount. Now, some folks are like, well, yeah, that's the opposite. He's coming in for just one mount. That must be worth it. And I'm like, okay, but I don't know. So I'm going to try to beat that horse with the one Posh Play Day. I'll single in the first 2 legs. So if I single in the first 2 legs and I'm alive, I'm going to spread. I love 1, 7, 8, 12 in race number 8 and 1, 4, 5, 7, 11 in race number 9. If we're alive, we get on into the final race. I love being alive to a single. I think Moving to Kentucky is the kind of horse that not only has the kind of speed that could control the pace, he doesn't need to, and I hope he doesn't. Hope he sits just off and gets a jump on the closers. And we feel like if we can maximize, we're going to play this not 50 cents, not $1, but $2. At $2 play, it's $40 is your total investment. And I think it's extremely viable. And if it doesn't work out, you only lost $40. And you've still got the rest of the week at Turfway to figure it out, and the other tracks coming into the mix as well. So we're going to try that, and then we'll check in and we'll let you know exactly how it works out when we see you back here again in the next episode. In the meantime and in between time, and until next time, I'm Ken Rudolph here on Horse Race Bets. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Until then, good luck and enjoy whatever you are into.